Hey there, Consulting Success YouTube followers and community. Sam Zipursky here, co-founder at Consulting Success. And today what I want to do with you is go over a recent presentation that I did inside the Clarity Coaching Program, where we work with B2B consulting founders who are really serious about taking their business to the next level. The presentation was entitled Sales Script Fundamentals, Turning Your Sales Process into a Repeatable Framework. Now, over the years, I've sold millions and millions of dollars of business in consulting and also in our coaching program here at Consulting Success. And when I really improved and when I really saw a change in my success, in my sales, in what I was doing here at Consulting Success, it was when I learned about a sales script and how to use a sales script. What's interesting is a lot of folks, a lot of really successful consultants, people making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K, even 100K and beyond per month, don't really have a sales script. They don't really have a framework, as I like to refer to it, and they don't really have the confidence when it comes to sales, right? So what I'm going to walk through with you today here in this presentation, like I said, this is something that I recently presented to our clients inside Clarity Coaching, but I'm going to walk through it with you as well and really hope that can add some value if you implement what I teach you here from a high level into your sales process in your consulting business. You will definitely see an improvement. So let's get started here. So a mindset shift before we begin. A lot of people say that they are not good at sales. I hear it all the time. I'm not good at sales. I don't have the confidence. I don't know how to sell. It's cheesy. It's pushy. I don't like to have, to put pressure on people, etc. So to do well at sales, what we need usually is a mindset shift. So I want to go through a few points here. Instead of thinking about it as selling, think about it as service. So sales calls are about adding value and building relationships, right? At the end of the day, we're not here just to sell someone. We're here to work with the right fit clients. We're here to add value. And if it's a good fit, then that's when we can ask for a sale, or that's when we can do business. So if you're in a business where you feel that you're pressuring people, you're having to sell, you don't know if you're aligned with the offer, you're in the wrong business. You're not selling the right consulting services. But most of you, if you're running your own consultancy, you know that your skill set, which is your consulting, or which is what you offer through your consulting, is a service, and you know you can add value. So think about sales calls as adding value and building relationships. That's the first big mindset shift. Once you start doing that, you won't have that anxiety or that pressure or that feeling that sales is not for you. You'll start to think to yourself as, oh, I'm really adding value. I'm really adding service to the folks that I speak to. Number two, conversations of possibilities. That's something I came up with. And that's really, before I get on a sales call of any sort, I always think of it as that. I frame it, I shift my mindset to, I'm not having a sales call. I'm having a conversation of possibilities. We're discussing what's possible in your client's business if they work with you, and not even if they work with you, just around your expertise. And, we'll talk about it today, what this framework's all about. But, what's possible if they fix their lead flow? What's possible if they update their sales process, like we're talking about today? What's possible if they hire this new staff that they've been having trouble hiring, right? So that's really what it's all about. It's exploring potential together, and there's no pressure tactics needed. Value first approach. This is also related. All three of these points are definitely related, but value first approach, you're focusing on solving problems, not pushing products. So once again, the mindset shift is just so important when you're doing sales, and thinking about it as service, thinking about it as conversations of possibility, and thinking about it as a value first approach. Okay, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about sales scripts, and let's quickly go over what a sales script is and what it isn't. So what it's not, which you can see on the left-hand side, is you hear the word script, you think, oh, I have to memorize, I have to be a robot, it's not going to be personal. right? So what it's not is it's not rigid, it's not robotic, it's not a one size fits all. There's no sort of manipulation tactics involved in this. What it is a repeatable framework. It's a confidence builder. It's a structured conversational guide for whenever you do have sales conversations that you're going to be running. And it might not just be you, it might be your team. You might end up training this to people on your team. And before I move forward, you can replace the word script if you don't like it with framework, right? And that's why over here I say repeatable framework, because at the end of the day, script might sound a little bit robotic, but it's not a script necessarily, it's a framework. Let's keep going. So, introduction. This is part one. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually break down, I think it's 6 parts to building a winning sales script or a winning sales framework, however you want to call it. Part one is the introduction. I said over here, goal 2 to 4 minutes. Let's assume this call is a 1-hour sales call, right? So part one is going to be the introduction, just for a minute or two. You want to build rapport. If this is a phone call, you might ask them where they're based today, or where they're calling from, etc. You're just creating a little bit of comfort and connection. You're being friendly. You don't want to do a lot of small talk around weather and, oh, I've been to your town many times. What I simply do is, hey, so and so, how's your day going? Just curious before we get started here, where are you based? Oh, I'm in San Diego. Oh, that's awesome. I'm calling you from Vancouver, BC. And then, I just keep moving. I don't start saying how's the weather down there, etc. If they say something, I might bring it up, or sorry, I will answer it, but I'm not going to get into a huge kind of I'm not going to get into a conversation about the weather or about small talk. That's not the goal to build rapport. It's just quick, create comfort, create connection. Number 2, you want to set the agenda. So this is where you want to talk with your prospect, and just this is where you start to own the call. You start to show your confidence, right? So you're going to say something like, James, before we get started and really dive into your company's situation today, and I really learn a lot more about you, which I'm excited to do, I just want to explain the call structure to you briefly, and then you can explain. So what we're going to do today is, and you'll learn over the next 6 parts here what you would say, but you can quickly explain the agenda of the call. And how I usually do it is, first I want to hear from you. I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to be listening deeply. I want to hear what's going on in your business. What made you reach out? What's top of mind right now? And just really what's happening in your business. That's the first part. I want to get to know each other and really get to know your business. Number 2, we're going to move into goals. So where do you want to be in the next 12 months? We'll dive into that. And last but not least, we will dive into where you feel you need most help in your business, right? From there, if it's a really good mutual fit, I will definitely explain how we work with clients like yourself, and then we can go from there. But before we even get to that, I really want to focus on you, and that's what the first part of this call is going to be about. And then from the last part, from after you say that, you're going to get agreement, and you just say, does that all sound good to you, James? They're going to say yes, and then you're going to say, okay, let's get going. James, why don't you start us off? Like I said, I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to be listening to you carefully. James, why don't you start off by give me a 5-10 minute overview of where you're at right now. Tell me about your company. Obviously, this is going to be in relation to your folks' offer. So whatever you're consulting around, in our case, we help consultants to scale and grow and market their businesses. You might help people with AI solutions. You might help someone with solar energy, change management, HR. Obviously, you want them to talk about, if you're an HR consultant, you're going to get them to speak about their HR department or their HR, what's going on with their company around HR. So that's all. That part should be obvious. Let's keep moving. That's the introduction. Part 2 is discovery. So this part, if it's an hour call, I usually spend about 20 minutes inside the discovery. This is really, and this includes them, like once you're done that part 1 introduction, this is going to include them giving you that 5-minute kind of rant, or not even rant, but you're going to let them speak for 5 minutes. You're going to be taking notes, and you're really going to be paying careful attention to what these folks are telling you, because whatever they're telling you in that first 5 minutes is definitely top of mind for them, right? In terms of their business issues or their business challenges, etc. So what you want to do during the discovery is really get to know this potential client. You want to listen, obviously, a lot. You want to ask powerful questions, right? Go deep, uncover real challenges and pain points, right? You want to show your expertise, demonstrate knowledge through thoughtful inquiry. So through asking powerful questions, you're going to be showing your expertise around HR, around consulting, around AI, around whatever it is that your niche is that you're selling consulting services around. You're going to find out what's blocking progress, identifying obstacles preventing their success. So during the discovery, it's all about letting them talk. You should not be talking a lot during the discovery. Whenever they stop talking, obviously you're going to want to ask a powerful follow-up question so that they go deeper. So I'll give you some examples. If I'm talking to a consulting founder who's making 10K a month but wants to go to 20K, I'm going to be asking them questions around their marketing, right? I'm going to be asking how many leads they're getting per month, per week. Do they have a team? How much do they charge their average client, right? These are the kinds of questions I'm going to go deeper and deeper into. I'm going to be, through my questions and through my expertise and asking the right questions, I'm going to uncover potential. And that's, this is, you're obviously taking notes the whole time. You're listening carefully, and you're also really putting in your memory cues for later, because later in the call, when you're doing your pitch, when you're reviewing stuff, obviously you're going to want to remember that they told you, you know what, I'm only getting one lead per month. So let's say I'm a marketing consultant or a marketing agency. If they're only getting one lead per month, I'm going to obviously have notes on that. And obviously we're going to be digging into that during the discovery and then later in the call as well. So between the intro and the discovery, if it's a 1 hour call, I usually spend 25 to 30 minutes on these two parts alone. So number 3, after I've gone through the discovery, I've really understood where their business is right now, some of the challenges, their team structure, where things are happening, where there's opportunity for improvement or growth, right? That kind of thing, some of the pain points, etc. I'm going to then move into their 12-month goals. So we've kind of talked about the present. Now I want to add some hope, right? So if we were talking 12 months from now, and let's say we were working together, you had a plan in place, etc., what would success look like to you? I want to understand, and I always like to say realistically. So realistically, let's say we're working together, we get a plan in place around your HR. I'm taking HR as an example right now. Where would you like your company or your HR division to be 12 months from now? What would realistic success look like considering you're at this baseline? And you might say, let's say their income is at 20K a month for their business, right? So you would have heard that in part 2, the discovery. You could say right now you're obviously at 20K a month. 12 months from now, where do you want to be income wise, if that's a relevant question? Or where do you want to be in terms of your staffing protocol or that kind of thing, right? Over here, a few notes. Shifting to future vision, you're moving from problems to possibilities. So during part 2, if I go back for a second, this is the discovery. You're going to be coming up with opportunities, pain points, what's blocking their progress. In part 3, for just a few minutes here, this will usually take 3 to 5 minutes to review goals, but over here you're shifting to possibilities, you're shifting to future vision, after them taking action and after them working with you and after them getting a great plan in place. Where could their business be, or where do they realistically want the business to be? You're creating hope, you're painting a picture of their ideal outcome. Now you want to make sure that it's realistic. And if it's unrealistic, this is where you can challenge them. Sometimes people will have quite realistic goals, and that your service, if they work with you, you can probably hit the goals with them. But sometimes people will say something like, I'm at 10K a month right now, and within a year, I want to be at 200K a month. That's usually not going to be realistic. It's not that it's impossible, but it's not usually realistic. In our niche, for example, if you're making 10K a month right now, you won't usually scale to 200K a month in a year, even with coaching. It's just not realistic, right? So I will usually call people on that. And it's amazing because instead of just saying, yeah, that sounds good, 200K a month within 12 months, I'll start to challenge them a bit. I'll say, it's great to have ambitious goals, but from what we've seen or from the folks we've worked with, doubling or tripling or quadrupling might be quite realistic, but 10xing your revenue or 20xing your revenue in less than 12 months or around 12 months is not too realistic. So they'll usually appreciate that when you check them and when you make sure that you kind of review this. So like I said, this is not supposed to be a very long section in a 1 hour call. This would usually be 3, maybe 5 minutes max. Let's keep moving. Part 4 is areas for help. So this is where you want to start to pull the call together. So you've now done the introduction, you've now done the discovery, right? And you've also gone over their goals. Over here is kind of where you want to review and make sure that you're both clear, or whoever's involved in this conversation, you want to make sure that you're all clear on what the areas for help are. So the first part is you're going to want to review your framework. So you would share your service pillars or methodology, and then you would try and find out where the gaps are, right? So I'll explain a little bit more how this works in a minute. The last part is going to be summarizing and confirming what you've heard. So you got to remember that in part 2, you've already, if you've done your discovery properly, you will have already discovered most of the areas for help. But here is where, because you're getting close to your pitch at this point, to giving your offer, if it's a good fit, of course, this is where you want it to be fresh in their mind, because you've brought them, you've done the discovery, you've now painted some hope, you've painted a picture of hope, and you've painted a picture of the future as you've gone over the goals. Now you're kind of bringing it all together in areas for help. So when I say review your framework, you might not have a framework. This is one of the things we work with folks inside the Clarity Coaching on, is to help you develop frameworks and methodologies around your consulting expertise. But essentially, in our case, for example, we have a 4-part framework, right? We want to help people with ideal client clarity. That's number 1. We want to help people with messaging, with their business model, with their pricing. That's number 2. We want to help people with their marketing, their lead gen. That's number 3. And then we want to help people with their scaling, right? Scaling freedom and really expanding their lifestyle and their business. That's number 4. So that's kind of our framework. And I'm not going to spend too much time getting into it, but I will briefly explain it, and I'll say, so-and-so, let's call them James. So James, we've been working with consultants for almost 20 years. Over the 20 years, we've developed a 4-part framework that we work through with all of our consulting clients. I just want to explain it to you very briefly, the 4 parts, and I want to hear from you once I'm done, where you feel you need the most help in order to achieve the goals that we just talked about, right? So hopefully that's pretty clear. So what I'll do on a sales call is we'll explain the 4 pillars very briefly. We have it on our homepage, so I get them to pull up our homepage. I'll go through the 4-pillar graphic. I'll explain it in maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes tops. And then I'll say at the end of my explanation, I'll say, James, today you told me, you're really looking for help, and you see opportunity in marketing, you see opportunity in scaling your team and your products. So I understand these are some of the main areas we discussed, but based on the framework I just explained to you, what resonates the most with you, James, and where do you feel you need the most help in order to hit your 12-month goals? Then, like I said, I'll before I let them speak, I'll show them that I've been listening, and I'll say, from what I've heard so far, you said this, and this, but I want to see if I missed anything, and what really resonates with you. Then I'm going to let them speak. They're going to tell you a bit more. It might be quite quick. So this part 4, areas for help, might just be a few minutes. Or when you ask them, they might really start talking again about problem and pain points, which is great for you, right? So now we're getting pretty close to the end of the call. Part 5 is important. This is not really a part rather than a bridge into your offer. Once we've now gone through, the introduction, the discovery, the 12-month goals, and really, going through the pillars and going through the framework to review where they need the most help. Number 4 is why now? And this is just a really powerful question, because this is where you make sure they're fully committed by saying, James, you seem like an amazing fit. You're very clear on your challenges. We've reviewed why it's so important to get help on these challenges. We've reviewed the opportunity, the potential, the next 12 months. I'm curious, why is now important for you folks, or for you, to make this change in your business, right? Or something like, why is now different than 6 months ago? I know when we were speaking today, you mentioned you've started to think about this 6 months ago. Why are you now looking to get help, and what makes this different than 6 months ago? They'll usually give you an amazing answer. I'm always blown away, right? So you want to get really clear on why it's important for them to make a change now, right? And when you ask that, they're going to give you a great answer. It's going to be really powerful. And then that'll lead you to the final part, which is part 6, your offer outline and pitch. So after you've gone through parts 1 through 5, if it is a good fit, we always say a good mutual fit. You shouldn't be selling someone if it doesn't feel like they're a great fit for what you do. So we like to call it a great mutual fit. There's a few things we think about. Do we think and know that we can help them? If it's no, we wouldn't make an offer. If it's yes, we might make an offer. But the other big part is, are they a good person? And does it feel like, you're not seeing any red flags? Are they going to be a pleasant client to work with, etc.? If all of that aligns and we know we can help them and they seem like a great person and they're going to be a good fit for the community, etc., of course, we're going to pitch our offer, right? That's what we're on this call for. So part 6 is really where, and this should, if it's a 1 hour call or a 1 hour meeting, I usually reserve the last 15 minutes for this. So just so you guys are aware of pacing, I've been kind of telling you throughout this call or throughout this video today, kind of the rate at how you should be thinking about pacing. But when you move into part 6 and you've asked them why now and you've gone through everything that you need to, this is where I have about 15 minutes to really present the solution. So what I'll usually say here, and obviously you're going to customize this to your own pitch and to your own business offer, etc. What I'll usually say here is, James, this is great. I've really, we've gone through where you're at now. We've gone through where you want to be in 12 months from now. We've really gone through some of the opportunities and some of the areas you're truly looking for help from or with. And we've also, gone through and made it clear why now is super important for you and your company to take action on this and really do something about it. From what I've seen and what I've heard so far, I think you guys are a great fit for what we do here inside fill in the blank, your company name. In our case, from what I see here, I feel like you'd be a great fit for what we do inside Clarity Coaching or at Consulting Success. What I want to do now is take 5 minutes and really explain, fill in the blank, explain this offer to you. And this is where you really want to go over the following things. You want to present your solution. You want it to be clear, concise. It's a clear, concise offer presentation. You want to really connect the dots. So remember to link their goals and pain points and issues to your offer. And you want to address urgency, tying it back to their why now motivations, right? So if you can remember to present your solution clearly, connect the dots to what they told you to your offer, plus address urgency, you're going to have a really solid pitch. And it's going to, you will start to win more business this way. This part, I would say, is definitely a bit more scripted because you want to practice being able to present your solution very clearly, right? And the way that you present your solution, present your price, present the payment plan, whatever it might be, that's more or less going to be the same every call or every time, especially if you have a certain package. You might have a business where you're changing packages and prices, but if you've kind of if you've kind of set up your business where you have one or two prices and you know what you're going to be doing, this part really should be scripted, and you should practice it and make sure that you get really good at, you want to productize essentially your pitch, right? So you keep practicing your pitch and you make sure that it's powerful, you make sure that it sounds good, and they're going to listen to you, right? So you will tell them that, give me 5 minutes, I want to really explain to you this offer, whatever it's called, whatever your offer is called. At the end of it, we can definitely go over questions, and then boom, you go into it. I save investment for the last. So I'll present the solution, I'll pitch it, and then at the very end of the call, I will say, hey, James, before I get into investment, I just want to make sure and see with you, is there any questions on how this offer would work or how this coaching program would work or whatever? I'll field and answer any final questions. They might say there's no questions, it sounds great, let's keep moving. Then I'll get into my investment and my pitch, right? So that's that. So the action steps, if you want to walk away after watching this video and really start, improving your sales, you want to, number one, create your draft script, right? You can use the 6-part framework and video as your foundation. Adapt to your voice, of course. Keep it simple. Make it authentically yours. And then last, just like any good script, practice and refine. Every call is practice for the next one. Remember, the last point I want to say is each call is a conversation of possibility. That's how I like to look at it. I'm adding value. I'm adding service. It's a conversation of possibility. That way you're taking the pressure away from you, right? And you're able to really focus on adding value, showing your expertise, listening deeply, asking powerful questions, And if you apply everything that I just talked about in the last 20 minutes or so to your sales, or you teach this to your team, I really do feel you will start to close more deals, and it'll feel natural too. It'll feel it's total freedom when you think of it like this. And obviously, if this is something you want to learn more about and you want to go much deeper, we do offer the Clarity Coaching Program specifically for serious consulting business founders. So we're always happy to talk to you more about this. But for now, I really think you can improve your sales just from this. So I want to thank you for checking out this video today. Once again, Sam Zipursky here, co-founder at Consulting Success, running sales for multiple years within Consulting Success. And I hope this helps you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.